The sound of pages turning means it's time for another episode from the Meredith Library Podcast Studio, bringing you the library's latest news, information, and fun.
Good afternoon, Anna.
Good afternoon, Matthew.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 29 of Check It Out here at the Meredith Library Podcast Studio. We have a special guest with us today, Anna.
It was hard to get this guest in, but we've been persistent, and he is now here. And who is it, Matthew?
It is Christopher Leland, the Assistant Director here at the Meredith Public Library. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon, Matthew, Anna.
And welcome to the show with us. We're so excited to talk to you today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how that led you to the Meredith Public Library 17 years ago?
So after high school, I had to go to college. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I couldn't be bored. So in high school, I'd spent a lot of time in the library and learned that there was a lot of variety to be had in the library world. So I decided to study librarianship, and I got a job at the university library. No 2 days were the same, and I was busy all the time. So I happily finished my library degree and then went to work for another university library. There, things got a little mundane, and the city life was getting to me. So my wife and I decided to reach out beyond the city and look for a job in a small town or a more rural area. And I noticed an opening for Meredith, New Hampshire, a place I had never before been, but was excited to go visit. And they hired me. So I've been here ever since.
All right, and it was Connecticut you were from. So you were from
New Haven, Connecticut.
New Haven, okay. So big town, big city, rather.
Big city.
That's the famous one, right? New Haven is the one that has all the famous pizza places, in addition to Yale, of course.
Everybody was very proud of there was Sally's Pizza and Pepe's Pizza. And there were all these local battles of which pizza place was the true pizza place or the better pizza place. Both pizza places had very long lines, so I only ever went to one and never went back.
One other question about pizza. Is this true that one of those pizza places, the mayor has a secret phone line to get right to the pizza place?
The mayor has claimed as such, but I've seen no evidence.
We'll move to our second question. You're the assistant director. What does that entail? Like, what are you doing? Do you get that variety that you so deeply crave at your job here?
Yes, I do. No 2 days are the same. So when the director's here, when Aaron's here, I get to ignore all the bureaucratic and administrative stuff. When she's not here, I have to step in and do those things. What I really like is one-on-one interaction with the patrons, getting them the solutions to the questions they ask. And I like the tech help that I have to provide to people. They always come in with different things. We got the makerspace now. So people come in with all kinds of ideas and projects they want to make on our big laser. And with our 3D printer, the 3D printer is actually going right now, making a bunch of tiny caterpillars.
And by the time this airs, we may have them available at the desk where people can come and ask and see, and then we'll know they've been listening to the podcast.
Say the secret code caterpillar at the front desk to get a glimpse at the 3D caterpillars in the makerspace.
I love that. So we talked about, or you start to talk about tech help. What are some of the barriers to helping people with tech issues?
Terminology is a big one. There are a lot of fancy words for relatively simple things, and I try to avoid using the big tech jargon and words because it just confuses people.
We've done a couple computer clubs together, and I feel like one of the other barriers, and you can tell me if you agree, is just how rapidly technology is evolving. So you could come in and have a question about something, and then 2 years later, it could be irrelevant, and you might need to learn how to do that thing again.
Well, there are some big concepts that change at that sort of rate, like 1 or 2 years. AI, for example, last year I kind of dismissed a lot of the AI hype and said that we weren't going to get to where people were claiming we would be. But a year later, it's really evolved quite a bit. On a smaller scale, there's simple things like website redesigns that really drive the patrons nuts. They get used to a website looking and functioning a certain way. And then a month later, the website is completely redesigned and I have no idea how to use anything.
We were wondering if one of the reasons why you like the makerspace so much is because of your love of novelty. We were talking to Erin before the interview, and she gave us a laundry list of different hobbies you've dabbled in over the years. Matthew, would you like to give out a few.
I think one that fascinates me is martial arts. So this is what happens if people have overdue books. You probably want to pay attention to this. So bring your books back in time. You don't want to face martial artist Chris Leland at the circulation desk. But tell us about that a little.
In college, I took judo for a while, went up a couple belt ranks. Right outside of Plymouth in Ashland, there's a jiu-jitsu place. So I decided to go there and try and continue my studies. And it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, awesome. And also, I know that you had an interest in and background in both bicycling and the mechanical part, like bicycle repair. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm a certified bicycle mechanic and a licensed wheel builder. I went to United Bicycle Institute in Ashland, Oregon, in between some college years.
Do you know how to play the banjo?
I can play a few songs on the banjo. I dabble a little bit.
We also have that you have dabbled in blacksmithing.
I took a blacksmithing course there for a few weeks. And that was really interesting. Very hot, but very interesting. I made some fireplace tools and a decorative large key, which locks one of my kitchen cabinets to this day.
So it seems like your ability to have a vast amount of interest in different things and pick things up rather quickly is pretty compatible with being the main makerspace go-to guy, would you say?
It definitely helps. I can see consistencies and patterns between the different pieces of equipment that help me shift and adapt to using them pretty quickly.
All right. And what would you say is your favorite piece of equipment that we have and your favorite project that either you've done or maybe a patron has brought to you for assistance?
My favorite piece of equipment is the Glowforge laser because it's direct and quick and you really can't screw it up. My favorite project, we had a patron come in. He's a taxidermist and he wanted to recreate a squirrel or chipmunk mold, some small rodentia animal. And I was able to use the 3D scanner we have to duplicate the shape of the mold. And then the 3D printer made a reasonable facsimile of it. I was very happy about that project. And another one, which is the same tool set, the scanner and the printer, was a recreation of the famous Meredith Mystery Stone. I went down to the Concord Historic Society where they have it on display. We were allowed access to it, and I made a pretty good scan, brought it back, refined the scan a bit with some software, and printed out a facsimile of it, which is on display at the Meredith Historic Society right now.
Yes, and we may have some more detail coming. Maybe we're giving people a preview because we have a whole write-up about that I did a while back, but we haven't released it yet. So you just gave them a preview and something to look forward to.
Well, all right. Glimpse into the future.
But we've started doing Makerspace Saturdays, right? And you're working those just to help people learn how to use different equipment that we have in the Makerspace?
Yes, Matthew and I co-host. In January, we demonstrated the Glowforge laser. We had a good showing. About 14 people came and got to see how it works and how to use it. And in February, we'll be doing the Cricut or cry cut machine.
And people have to know, who calls it the cry cut machine?
Matthew calls it the cry cut machine.
Because people can understand if it's cry cut, it's to cut, right? If it's a Cricut, they don't know what that is.
Yeah, what does it do?
Sure.
Rub its legs together? Yeah, I don't know.
It does make a lot of noise.
The final question we have is, what would the public be surprised to know about being the assistant director? What's something about the job that people either would assume?
Yeah, they might assume the opposite, perhaps, or they just would not even think about that aspect of it.
When a toilet gets blocked, I unclog it.
Maybe what you mean when you say that is just people think that you're just reading in your office all day or just typing up documents, but there's some nitty-gritty parts of working in a government public facility.
It's a public building, and we have to deal with everything that comes along with being a public building.
Yes, and specifically, we do not have a maintenance person on staff or anything, so you were being serious when you say if those plumbing issues occur, somebody here has to deal with it, and you are often that person.
Yeah, I'm often that person. Twice last week.
Well, thank you for coming on, Chris. I hope you had an enjoyable time on our podcast.
It was a time I will not soon forget.
Notice how carefully that was phrased, everybody. I love it. All right. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you taking the time, and we will look forward to speaking with you perhaps on the air again and off air every day.
You're welcome.
We will see all of you next time at the Meredith Library Podcast Studio. Check it out.
Podcast music titled Daytime TV Theme by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0.
Podcast copyright 2025. Meredith Library Podcast Studio.